Hello YouTube, Liverpool fan in Japan here, the Miyazaki man Sai. Even in defeat, going down 3-1 at the Emirates Stadium, this channel is a logical, methodical analysis of what happened, lessons learned and what we could have done better, okay? There's no shying away from the fact that Liverpool were very, very bad yesterday. I was up until 3:30 AM, casting my eye on the events that unfolded, and actually, I've got a lot to say, so stick around with me. We'll do the player ratings in another video. First, let's look at the lineup Jurgen Klopp employed versus Arsenal. So we heard late in the day, Dominic Szoboszlai, a recurrence of that hamstring injury. Not really injured per se, but he felt it after the match and couldn't be risked for this particular lineup, because if you risk the hamstring, he could be out for an extended period, even for the rest of the season. So it makes sense for him to come out of the team. However, that means that our all-conquering, all-dominating midfield against Chelsea was out of this match, and it's particularly relevant because Dommy Schlobbers covers for Trent exceedingly well when Trent ventures forward. Trent would have been the obvious pick because unfortunately Conor Bradley had the personal issues with his dad passing away. All our condolences to Mr. Bradley. I'm sure, we all support Konate. He's been absolutely on fire, and I'm sure everyone will join me in saying he must have been delighted. Absolute proudest man in the world to see his son absolutely storm Chelsea and knock them off the pitch. 2 assists and the goals. Wow. Amazing performance. Once again, our condolences to Conor Bradley, and we hope to see him soon. That being said, Trent was a nailed-on starter on the right-hand side. Dominic Szoboszlai comes out of the midfield. Now, you need someone defensively responsible, defensively capable, very good workhorse off the ball to cover for that side, especially against Arsenal, when Martinelli traditionally always has goal contributions against Liverpool. Whereas a goal or an assist, his pace, his directness is always a threat, and he seems to have Trent on toast every now and again. Now, the reasoning for playing Trent even before the Conor Bradley news was because if you have a front line of Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez, you have 2 people to hit, especially Nunez on the left hand side and Luis Diaz on the right hand side, acting like a pseudo Mo Salah around the corner. Trent can get Lucho Diaz one-on-one against Zinchenko, imitating Salah's performance against Zinchenko, because Zinchenko doesn't do well against tricky wingers. Similarly, Darwin Nunez would pin Ben White back and bring the offside line further back, which allows us to compress and really put pressure onto the midfield, because their midfield is very dynamic, very tactically flexible, very aware as well. So we need to create those gaps in midfield, which is where we had the joy against Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo didn't know whether they're coming or going, right? So we wanted to imitate that same tactics, but you can't imitate that same tactics because the personnel are different. We had Conor Bradley marauding, bombing right back, and with Trent, you've got to hit over the top and you have to have multiple options on the pitch. Nunez didn't start. Now, here's the first issue that I have with this lineup, and Klopp mentioned in the press conference, the information he had and what he knew before the match, he would have gone in the same starting lineup every single time. And I completely understand Klopp, because in the moment when you make a decision, you weigh up all of the potential variations, the consequences, the possibilities, good, negative and bad, whatever, and you always come to the right conclusion in that moment of time, which means when you go back in time, you can't look back in hindsight. In a moment of time, you always would come to the same conclusion you already did, because at that moment of time, that was the best choice that you could perceive for the vision of the game that you had. And Klopp had that vision. But I'd like to question this a little bit. So I'm not always pro every decision a manager makes. We don't kiss his toes. You can criticize constructively and you can analyze things for what they are. In the absence of Nunez and with Gakpo up there and Jota, Trent hitting Gakpo and Trent hitting Jota isn't the same effect as Trent hitting a Salah, Trent hitting a Lucho Diaz out wide, or Nunez out wide or through the top. Because Gakpo and Jota don't have that blistering pace that really threatens the offside trap. It's more along the lines of a through ball that cuts through the lines, right, that hits them rather than a ball over the top. So with that in mind, you're leaving Trent with the vulnerability against Martinelli, especially with Szoboszlai out, and especially choosing Gravenberch to be on the right hand side to cover for that particular area. Now, Gravenberch, credit to him coming in for a big game. He's bought in to show his potential, and he'll grow with these kind of games, right? But defensively and off the ball, every fan can see that at the moment that's where he needs to kind of build up that chemistry, that relationship with the team. Klopp alluded to it in the press conference as well. That right-sided triangle just didn't click. They didn't have that familiarity, that rapport that you'd expect from a Trent, Szoboszlai, Salah, for example. Okay. Now, McAllister has been playing out of his skin lately, absolutely out of his skin. In a number 6 role, he's really cemented his number 6 starting position. But this was a game for Wataru Endo, and obviously having been knocked out of the Japan Asia Cup, condolences there as well. It's very unfortunate. Not a great week personally for the Miyazaki man and all the teams I support. However, Wataru Endo is coming back soon, too early for this particular game. That being said, you saw Wataru Endo's performance against Arsenal in the corresponding fixture last time, right? dominated the midfield, really stood up to be counted, and he was the ever-present force in midfield that didn't allow the dynamism of Arsenal to take over. In fact, front-footed defending, pressurising, pinned them back on the back foot. They relied on Declan Rice at the base so many times to play their way out of trouble, right? They're pinned back in. McAllister can get beaten with the ball by a silky number 10, in this case Odegaard, right? However, McAllister grew into the match, and I'll talk about McAllister and Gravenberch and Nunez on a positive note very, very shortly. But without Wataru Endo in there, you're looking at a midfield of McAllister, Curtis Jones and Gravenberch. Gravenberch will really struggle with the dynamic off-the-ball movement of Arsenal, the tactical flexibility, especially Jorginho pulling the strings, right? They decide to go with Declan Rice at the base, Jorginho pulling the strings, and Havertz roaming, floating, and pulling our players everywhere. That right-sided kind of triangle was a real weakness for us, especially because Martinelli's pace even outdid Konate, because Martinelli, starting from deep, had a run on him. Konate, who's usually very, very solid, found it very, very difficult to cover again and again for this particular match. And that what we usually build our foundation on is a solid triangle of Alisson, Van Dijk and Konate, and in this particular match they were very, very under the cosh, and obviously the midfield couldn't protect them at times as well as Klopp would have envisaged or wished, which is why I question once again this right hand side of Trent and Gravenberch. Even in this regard, it might have been better to put Curtis Jones on a right hand side, but he went for Vala, he went for putting Curtis Jones on the left, trying to get a kind of take on the game, a hold on the game, get on the ball and make things happen. But this is where I'm going to praise McAllister and to an extent Gravenberch, and a little bit criticise Curtis Jones. Now Curtis Jones gave 100%. All Liverpool players, without a doubt, gave the maximum effort. Of course we want to represent the team the best you can and win, but you have to have something about you in these biggest games that has that confidence to really progress the ball and progress the lines. Playing clean, playing neat, playing balanced is good when you control majority of the possession and when you're a constant threat. But Jones has it in his locker to turn and progress the ball, or beat the man on the turn, or engage in a 50-50 and progress the lines into that advanced kind of 10 Mazzala position where we can cause the damage. Elliott tried his best to do it, but Jones has more in his locker to get in that position. But Jones often played it safe. I know he didn't have the options, but even McAllister tried again and again to turn and drive into space, Now that is an absolute Liverpool thoroughbred quality that even under the cosh and under the maximum pressure, he will give it a go, trust in his ability and trust in his heart and his willingness to push into that gap and beat the man into the gap. I saw him succeed about 3 times. I saw him fail 1 time. But he tried and tried again to break that first press to get us going, to actually get us going. Because without that, the service is starved. Arsenal pressed like a monster. They were overbearing on our defence, which is why Van Dijk, Konate struggled to play out from the back. Gomez, not left-footed. He was probably the pick of the bunch in that back line. Composure, receiving the ball, trying to play the ball, trying to make things happen. Trent too often was under the cosh, aware of the threat of Martinelli, couldn't progress in position, and Klopp even alluded that he wanted Trent to go down the wing, to get down the wing. But it's very questionable. How can Trent get down the wing when the covering player is Gravenberch behind him, and then you have Martinelli against Gravenberch, and Martinelli against Trent is going to be very, very tough. It's not like a Szoboszlai or Henderson or Milner even in that role. So Trent was penned back, which means you're putting Trent as an overall defender. With this lineup, it would have made so much sense to me, knowing what Klopp knew, to put Gomez at right back and Robertson at left back. Because Gomez didn't have the best of games against Bukayo Saka, but Bukayo Saka didn't have the best of games either. He was very fortunate for that rebound in the way that Alisson palmed it away from goal, but you make your own luck. Okay, this is something that Darwin Nunez has in great abundance, which is why he is the one who can create opportunities out of nothing, because you make your own luck by moving into a position where you most likely feel the ball will land. You see it in Blue Lock, right? Anime Blue Lock. A striker's instinct tells you that you can sniff the possibility of a ball dropping in this certain area based on the shot trajectory, what the goalkeeper would do, which means you have the chance to bury it. Palms it to Saka. Saka finished with aplomb, 1-0 down. Unfortunate, but kind of expected as well, because Arsenal played really, really well and put us under the pressure. Jota is one of those players who, when he's on fire, when you can work the ball into him, into position, then he'll score the goal. Or he can create a half chance to create the goal. But when your midfield is being overrun and the attacking threat is so immense, it's difficult to get the players into the right position, which is behind the first press of Arsenal, to slot in a Jota. Similarly, Gakpo isn't one to make things so much on his own. He relies on the ball being given to him in the correct position to do something with the ball. He had 1 or 2 snapshots, could have done something better, but this is also somewhere where McAllister had those long shots and Gakpo had 1 or 2 shots as well. You've got to hit the target. I know in training you aim for the side of the net, you aim for the hardest place for the keeper, you aim to put it right in the corner, but sometimes you just got to hit the target an inch or 2 safer. May not be the best of shots, it may be more savable, but you've got to at least hit the target because there's a chance for a fumble or a rebound or anything like that, which keeps the ball in play. As soon as it's over the bar, as soon as past post, the next phase of play begins. Your attack is over. Now you're going to have to chase shadows, chase the ball, chase Arsenal. And when they've got ball players, right, like Jorginho and Odegaard and all these players, but even Zinchenko didn't have a huge role, but he can do this kind of thing. Gabriel and Saliba are quite adept at it. Ben White slightly less so. Rice, very, very technical. He's got techers, surprisingly technical. It's going to be very hard to get the ball off of Arsenal again, which puts yourself back under pressure. The crowd is roaring. They know the opportunity to go back into the title challenge, to go back into the chase. They've been absolutely demoralised by our FA Cup win, so they knew this was pretty much the season on the line here, season at stake. And Liverpool slightly vulnerable. Nunez, injury. Szoboszlai, injury. Wataru, Endo and Salah not here. We obviously missed both of them, but saying that though, even when Salah is there, he will try to make things happen. McAllister tried to make things happen. Salah would try to make things happen. This is where Darwin Nunez, I think, should have started. Now, if he's got the foot injury, right, and you don't start Gakpo, you're saying to Gakpo, even a half-fit Nunez, I need to rely on him on the biggest game. You're not quite there yet. So he started Gakpo for maybe long-term reasons, or he could consider that he could be in with a chance, go into the halftime 0-0, congest the play, because this is what Klopp's been doing this season. In the first season, he's trying to suss out Arteta's tactics, the opposition tactics, adjust accordingly in play, do what you can first half, bonus if you can get anything first half, and then really gung-ho go for it in the second half. Maybe that was his plan. But in this biggest game, where we're going to be under the cosh, because Klopp alluded to it again, in the FA Cup against Arsenal actually dominated the first half and dominated a lot of the play, but missed their chances, and we converted our chances. You need the agent of chaos up front, because Darwin Nunez alongside Lucho Diaz, when you're under the cosh, when you have the out ball, they can make something happen. Nunez cut inside and took a wild shot, lashed at the shot, but he still created that chance out of nothing. Without his existence on the pitch, we wouldn't have even created that chances. You have to create your own opportunities for luck and then rely on your ability, the timing and luck to get end result out of it. This is how Lucho Diaz got the goal for us. Very unfortunately, we only had 1 shot on target, so we did not deserve anything out of it. We didn't even deserve a draw. But just before half-time, when the tempo changes, the momentum changes, and momentum is a fragile thing, Lucho Diaz made that opportunity out of a Gravenberch lofted ball into Lucho Diaz, going inside, cutting in, and then Gabriel went up, palmed it into his goal, and he's doing all hysterics, and that was really fun to see. And I thought, yes, we're in this. Half-time, Arteta demoralised, but Arsenal kept their composure and Liverpool could not up their game, up the framework of success to get the players into game-winning scenarios. We just could not do that. Another reasoning behind this is the way we set up just really invited Arsenal to get into those pockets in front of us, because in and around McAllister, obviously the protection would be Jones and Gravenberch here, with Konate and Van Dijk stepping up, but Konate and Van Dijk were just shaky in their decisions to push forward and really pressure the opposition, and it doesn't help when the referee really goes against you. Obviously the hug on Jota, the wrestling of Nunez as well, 50-50s and aerial challenges which were not fouls at all were given to Liverpool players and produced a yellow card for Liverpool players. Gomez got a yellow card probably unnecessarily easily in the first half as well. And that really kind of demoralises your confidence. And when that second goal goes in, right, 2 phases of mistakes here. Firstly, Van Dijk should just clear it, throw his body, diving header, whatever, get the ball out of the way, get the ball out wide, let Martinelli pick it up and start again, reset. When you let it go across your body, you are asking for potential mishap to happen. Now, when the ball does go across his body and he's calling Alisson out, this is where Alisson makes the mistake, because Alisson should have cleaned out everyone, including Van Dijk. If the ball is through Van Dijk, you go through Van Dijk to get the ball. You absolutely take everything out into the line of the ball to clear the ball. There's no foul if he was to flatten Van Dijk and clear the ball. None at all. He could have called Van Dijk out of the way. He could have asked Van Dijk to back into Martinelli. He could have done anything, right? Van Dijk could have even fell over on a nudge from Martinelli. But He tried to hold him off with physicality. The nudge put him into Alisson. Alisson completely missed the ball and tried to hook it with his heel. Left it for Martinelli for a tap in. He's got his goal contribution as he always does. Trent, who always gets assists versus Arsenal, got a very high assist tally. Didn't get any assists. Martinelli, who's always got goal contributions against Liverpool, got his goal contribution, right? This meant that Arsenal's game-winning scenarios were met, and they had shots on targets, and they played in front of our goal. They had a high goal expectancy, and they ran our midfield ragged as well. We did not have the personnel to react to what was happening. Even Thiago came on, was a bit rusty, one hospital pass backwards. Composure, playing the ball around, but it's a little too late, because without the service, the forward players like Gakpo, like Jota, really can't make it happen on their own. They need the ball into the right area where they can produce their moments of magic. Darwin Nunez and Mo Salah are more players who can have that spark of inspiration to make something happen. And because Darwin Nunez had the facility to come on, this is why I didn't understand from Klopp. Why don't you start him? Because he has the facility to play and play that amount of time. It's better to have yourself in the game, in the moments, and a little bit of mind games as well, because Arteta won't know how long Darwin Nunez has to play, similarly how long Trent has to play. You play him for the fact that you're playing Trent Alexander-Arnold, so you need to utilise Darwin Nunez and Lucho Diaz up front. Otherwise, the decision to put Trent at right back doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because everyone can identify that Martinelli is going to have him on toast. It's unfortunate. Trent is a good defender. He can channel him out into areas of containment, into less threat where Konate can clean up. But Martinelli is always still a threat. And if Martinelli has a good game, which he did have a good game, and Kai Havertz pulling our defence in and around as well, he shuffled Konate into very uncomfortable positions, and Van Dijk wasn't his authoritative self. We really just don't have the outball. We can't get a foothold into the midfield as well, because McAllister is the only one who tries to drive and turn, similar to Gravenberch. Gravenberch off the ball left a lot to be desired, but at least he tried to turn. He tried to create the opening in midfield. This is where I give Gravenberch some credit. He had the bravery to trust himself to do it. Now, I don't know whether it's bravery or just his natural instinct, but it's something you need to do against a very oppressive midfield, is to have the confidence to play ball, play football, and try to make things happen. Curtis Jones was way too timid and safe in what he was trying to do. Didn't penetrate anywhere as near as much as he should do with his dribbling ability. The one cut inside from left, obviously he tried to bend it. His foot was a little bit too straight on to the ball to get enough curvature on it. But it's one of those where we just completely lost in midfield. We didn't create anything of note the whole time. I felt sorry for Trent not having the outlet balls for Nunez from the start. Gakpo was very, very isolated as well, and Gakpo even started right hand side, which is even more questionable, because I don't think I've seen Gakpo have a good performance on the right hand side. And Jota up front needs the service. It was only Lucho Diaz's energy and endeavour that made something out of nothing, which gave us the lifeline back in it. But overall, we kind of deserved to lose. And look, you can lose any big game, any top of the table clash, and Arsenal, a quality team, quality manager, quality players at the home ground with it all to play for. You can lose on any given day, even if we started our strongest team with Nunez and the other players up front. But there's a way to lose, and what you saw there just wasn't convincing enough. But saying that though, people now say that the Manchester City match is a must-win. But that's not necessarily true as well. You have a lot of action between now and then, and any one of us could be out of the title race even before that encounter. Now, we're at Anfield, we have the same thing that Arsenal had. The full house behind us, all on the line, must win. Hopefully the full squad to play from, the full bench to play from. Klopp having all the personnel to show off his tactical acumen, to try to get one over Guardiola. That is a big match, big encounter, but there's a lot to play for with Burnley first up beforehand. Burnley and then Bournemouth, and then we've got the cup fixtures, for example. We need to go into every match now, between now and the end of the season, with the mentality, the personnel and the tactics to really try to make this Klopp's glorious final chapter. I sense that people aren't as angry at this particular loss as sometimes they would be, because I think you saw that Arsenal kind of played us off the pitch. They deserved to win, and ultimately it's a combination of personnel and tactics and endeavour and personal performance that kind of did us in. I think we would have performed slightly better with Gomez on the right and Robertson on the left. The midfield is unfortunate with Szoboszlai, but what can you do? Can you replace a Gravenberch? Can you put a Harvey Elliott on the right hand side? He would have suffered with a lot of the same issues, because he's a pressing monster, but his physicality isn't there and he's not the quickest. And you saw in the final goal, Leandro Trossard turned him as well, right? He's not the best tackler. He presses, he gives his all, he gives his heart. It might have even been better to go with the Curtis Jones on the right to cover for Trent, the Scousers on the right hand side, and you might even need to play a Gakpo on the left hand side for his endeavour, ability to hold the ball and try something a bit different. Unfortunate, we didn't have Wataru Endo. He would have been perfect perfect for this game. Obviously, he's got his own issues with Japan being knocked out, but he's back soon, and we have the options there once again. And Nunez's foot should have recovered, and Thiago will be getting that match fitness, and he will have a part to play in this season as well. So we hope that Szoboszlai is not out for too long. A crucial part of the defensive off-the-ball unit that really made us solid. And with that being said, full credit to Arsenal. They deserve the win. They're back in the title race, but the race isn't over. Once Liverpool get back into form, a few nice fixtures coming up. Chelsea got hammered again. Let's pick up our first trophy, Carabao Cup final at Wembley. Let's get the momentum back. Let's get the fan base back on our side. Miyazaki Manichiban, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video. Helps get it seen by the algorithm. Shared to a lot more people in their feed and home screen. And subscribe if you haven't already. We've got to be fair. We're emotional, we're passionate, but we're logical as well. As Klopp mentioned, high IQ. Lots to look forward to this season. Let's go with a final hurrah. Gambare minasan. Janet.